Happy Sunday. It may not be Sunday when you're watching this, but Sunday today, so happy Sunday. I hope whoever is watching that you've maybe got a chance to watch my most recent video that I made. It was my first one I've made in like over a year. So I hope you got to see that and kind of get a feel for what I hope these videos are and what they are to other people who are watching. I'll just kind of start today's episode is one size fits all. So one size fits all, and spoiler alert, one size does not fit all. Not only in clothing, that's a load of crock, but also in like life and all things. So these videos, I always am like, well, what am I going to say? And I try to practice these things in my head, but I have learned a long time ago, I do better just winging it, because when I start like obsessing over words or phrases or things I'm going to say, I get tongue-tied when I mess them up, and then I'm like totally scatterbrained because I'm trying to remember those things. So I'll be honest, I just get on here. I maybe have like an idea, like the one size fits all. That's something that I've wanted to talk about with like in the last year. But like I said, I haven't got on here to be able to share it. But I want this space to be like a genuine space, like a relatable space. I follow a lot of influencers that get on there and will be like, I don't want to be negative. I want this to be a positive space. I really try not to, talk about things that are kind of down in the dumps or whatever. And then they'll share something. And I'll be honest, like it is rare for me to get on there and see things, like especially on Instagram. That's usually my busier site that I follow a lot of influencers. And they don't really talk a lot about, not all, but quite a few of them really don't share like real life stuff, and on my other video, I talked about like highlight reel, and we are like in the era of highlight reel, like everything is glamorous and bright and aesthetically pleasing. And I don't know about you, but real life for me is not always all those things. Sure, I deep clean my house usually once a week, and it looks really, really good for like an hour, and it's all those things. And like parenting, whether you're a parent or not, and if you are, I'm sure you can relate. I have really good days with Briggs, my son, and I have horrid days where I'm like, have I not been parenting for the past almost 3 years? Like, where did I mess up? So, like we're human, we're real, and I want this space to be real. And although I do also want it to be positive, just like those other influencers that I follow say, I don't want this to be like a down in the dumps place for people, but I'm real. I'm a real person, and I think there's like a fine line of being, someone like that's negative all the time. Like we probably all know, everybody watching, probably has that, like can immediately think of that person that's like always negative. Like everything has like a sour curve to it. But I don't want to be that place, but I also, like I said, I want to be real. So I wanted to put that out there, kind of like little service announcement, just to let people know I am real. I'm a real person. And I want to be relatable. Above all, I want to be relatable. So today's episode, I guess you could say episode, is one size fits all. And why I chose that is that's been something I've been thinking about for the past several months. And I want to throw this out there too. I am a mother, and that really feels like a prominent role in my life right now. Not that it probably will ever go away, but I just know right now it's such a big part of my life, because my son is going to be 3 actually this week. And, during those first few years, it's extremely hands-on in every aspect. Like, and other parents, like I said, maybe that are watching this, you totally, I know, because it's like he requires my attention, it seems like all the time. Like, and whether your child goes to school or daycare, whatever, like there's a reason they require more workers in the younger classes or whatever, more hands-on like teachers and aides or whatever, because they're a lot of work. You know, infants and toddlers are a lot, and they're the greatest thing ever. He's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I know my husband would say the same. But he is also a lot of work. And, you know, I think about my life as a mother, and I talk about me being a mother a lot because I feel like it's just such a prominent role right now. But if you're not a parent, you know, this isn't just about those things. I may refer to that a lot just because that's kind of where I'm at in my life. But it's not just about being a parent. It's all things. One size does not fit all. So it doesn't matter if you're a parent or you're maybe even single or you're very young or you're maybe hitting a different part in your life, like empty nester even, or grandparent. Like it could be anything. But this is something that always comes to mind. It's one size does not fit all. And what I mean by that is, you know, like you go into clothing stores and it'll say like, you know, or you're online. As I know, like for me, like I said, I got a kid, I'm busy, I shop online a lot, and I'm like, one size fits all. One size does not fit all, you know, and I've ordered things that were like one size fit all, and I'm like, okay, like this is either like an arm floaty, like it's barely going over my arm, or it's a bed sheet. Like, you know, this is not one size fits all. So, you know, that is the same way with life. You know, one size does not fit all. I remember being like in high school and close to graduation, and I was feeling very like defeated and just like, okay, I don't really know specifically what I want to do with my life. You know, this person's already like taking classes for nursing school, or this person's taking classes for this, or they've already got a scholarship. I mean, it was just, I remember being at the age and being like, oh my gosh, I don't know for sure. I mean, I think I want to do fill in the blank, but you know, and now looking back, it's almost like ridiculous that kids are supposed to figure out what they want to do for the rest of their life at such a young age. But back then I felt really out of place. And I remember like, I almost, and here, confession, this is a confession of mine. I'm going to throw my flaw out there for whoever still happens to watch. I struggle with FOMO. Fear of missing out. I have struggled with it my whole life. And I don't know if it's because I feel like I missed out on a lot, maybe growing up, you know, just with my childhood and things. You know, I had great parents, but we had a lot going on, and my dad had poor health, and there was a lot of things that play into that. But I always kind of felt like, I feel like I've always had FOMO, fear of missing out. And in my head with FOMO comes that constant comparison and worry and like, why isn't this working for me? Why don't I feel that way? Why don't I know what I want to do at 18 or whatever age? You know, why am I not married or engaged? Why have I not had kids? And I think a lot of it now, like I mentioned on the other video, and if you know me, I talk about this, or my social media. Social media is a wonderful thing for a lot of things. You can monetize it, you can meet people, there's so many cool things about it, but it's also a world of toxic if you allow it to be. So I know like with this one size fits all, we get in our heads like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm however old and I've only traveled one time, or I've never been on a vacation, and this person's been on 20, and you know, oh my gosh, I have a 3-year-old, and that lady has a 3-year-old, and you know, she's just got her life together. I mean, look at her house. You could eat off her floor. You know, I mean, it's all those things, you know, like, oh my gosh, not only are we not trying to have a kid, I don't really know if we're ready. And then we're putting ourselves in these pressuring positions that literally don't even exist because one size fits all. It doesn't. But in our heads, for whatever reason, one size fits all. One size fits all. No, it doesn't. One size will never fit all in clothes and in real life. And I'm telling you, up until really, I'm not saying this from a place of like not understanding or not being sympathetic. I am definitely, really until I got married and did some major growing up. And really, honestly, probably the bulk of it happened once I became a mother. And again, this is not just parenting based. Just for me, it was like a total life change, and I think as it should be, in a lot of ways. But I mean, it was like 180 for me. I went from being so busy, feet always on the ground, living for me, and not, I don't even want to say like I was a selfish person, but just I was always on the go, and I thrived like that. And then all of a sudden it was, the pandemic, and we were home, and I had this child, and I had a pretty traumatic birth. There was just all these things. And I had a lot of time to grow, but I had a lot of valleys that I had to go through, and thinking one size fits all. And I had to get that out of my head, because it is absolutely the thief of joy, hands down. And like I said, I'm not saying this in a place of like, okay, I'm holding accountability on that side of the phone and not here. It is definitely something I have to work on. And that's why I wanted to make this video, to share it in hopes to make other people have some type of comfort if they're feeling that way. I think a lot too, like where I live, is like a rural area, like rural Missouri. And a lot of people in this area get married young, have children young. It's not uncommon for people to have several kids by like mid-20s. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like my sister, had a couple kids when she was in her earlier 20s. I was in like almost mid-20s by the time I had my son. Well, I guess I was mid-20s, yeah. And there's nothing wrong with those things, but I remember, and this is just how bizarre, because now I'm thinking, oh my gosh, thank God I didn't have a kid when I thought I needed one, because I was a kid. But I remember thinking, like, even just out of graduating, I was already like, okay, marriage and children and settling down. And then, you get in these relationships, you're like, oh yeah, we're going to have kids and we're going to get married. And it's like, whoa. And a lot of that is like one size fits all. In my head, I'm like, well, so-and-so does it. It's working out great for them. And that's great. Like I said, I'm not dissing any type of lifestyle. Like I have tons of friends that had babies when they were young. I have tons of friends that are in their 30s and just starting. And I think it's all great. And I say this all the time. When I'm having these conversations and I'm hearing these comparisons come out of my friends, and even family's mouths saying like, oh, fill in the blank, and I'm behind, or I feel behind, or I feel like I'm missing out. I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, it's this area. And I say it a lot, but even outside of our area, if you're watching this and you're from, LA or whatever, I know that's a far cry, but just say, it's a thing no matter where you are. Because whether it's maybe not the same situation here, that you're struggling with that one size fits all, like, well, they are doing this, or maybe they're booming in their career and I'm sitting back on the back burner and I'm working just as hard. That doesn't mean you're not. It just means it's not your time. Like, and I know that's such a frustrating thing to hear. I look back on so many times in my life where people were telling me like, it's just not your time, or God's prepping you for something bigger. And I literally just was like, that's not what I want to hear. Like I'm struggling. I'm in the trenches right now. I need to hear like, we're rocking and rolling up this hill and we're going to stay up there, but that's not the truth, and I think we get in this, like I said, this one size fits all. And I know I keep saying that. And that's why I chose this to be the name of this episode, because it's a real thing. And it's not just kids. It's not just marriage. It can be career. It can even be something like literally like even your weight or your health journey. Like I am putting in the same time as whoever, fill in the blank, and they are like abs. And I saw them at the local ice cream place and they were not getting the locale, like literally it could be anything, But that's because we're not the same person. You and whoever you're comparing yourself to, whether it be a parent or a colleague where, like like I said, your work field, you're feeling like you're getting left behind, or your fitness journey, or your marriage, or just your relationship with friends or family or your significant other. You have to understand, no one is you, no one's in your shoes, no one's dealing with the person you're dealing with the jobs you're dealing with, and every situation is going to be so different, and to not let that discourage you. You know, I look back, this is coming from a place like, I hope I can help someone. I don't even know that I wasn't told these things so much. I maybe was, I probably was, but I didn't listen. And now, like I said, now as a mother, and I'm 29, and I look back on my life, and I know I'm still so young, but I've had a pretty big life as far as, you know, like I've went through quite a bit. I feel like I've learned some pretty tough lessons, and I feel like I'm a totally different person, especially since my child. And I just think, you know, what a lie that is, that one size fits all, because we get, like I said, you know, that one size fits all brings a whole nother issue. Like I said, with that FOMO, you know, you're always worried, like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out. Because I don't have that relationship with my boyfriend or my girlfriend, I'm totally missing out, you know. And I always even thought like maybe, it was like primarily like a female thing, but it's not. Like, you know, there's so many times that I've ran into this a lot, like even now being an adult and a parent, like I'll hear or overhear conversations, and I'm like, oh, like they may not be sitting here on a camera sharing it like I am, but like they'll say things or they'll have those conversations with me where I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying. Like, I get it. Like, you're looking around you and you're saying like, this guy is doing A, B, and C, and he's crushing all these goals, and he's already owning his business and is super successful, and they've been open a month and you've been open a year, and you're barely, you know, getting out of the trenches. But it's a totally different category. It's a totally different, you know, clientele. Like, it could be so many factors that play into that. And that's why I say it's not just motherhood, it's parenting, it's marriages, it's relationships, it's friendships, it's jobs. This does fit all. This one time, this certain category does fit all things, because, you know, it could be anything in your life that you are allowing this one size fit all mentality, that comparison mentality, destroy something really, really good in your life. And it could even be, you know, like I said, it could be destroying it. You could be looking over maybe some of the biggest blessings in your life because you're so obsessed with the idea of this person's ahead of you, or that person's ahead of you, or you're behind, or you don't look this way or act that way, or you don't have this or that. It could be anything from, like I said, relationships, materialistic things, whatever. You know, and I have a video on here, old, about contentment, and it all plays in together. But I know just even in the past couple years, it's probably, like I said, probably the last year even significantly as a parent, and just having to step back and be like, okay, I've got to put blinders on. I've got to step back and look in the mirror and be like, okay, what works for me? What works for me? What works for my family? What works for my marriage? What works for me as a parent? Because I will just tell you, one of the biggest things in my life is, you know, I have older sisters who have children, and I'm close to both of them, love my niece and nephews, and I thought I had it all figured out. I knew what it was going to be like to be a parent, my kid, what I was going to feed him, what kind of products I was going to use. And let me just tell you, I had him, and not only was the birthing process a smack in the face, and coming home from the hospital during the time that we did, and all of the things in between, it was a total learning curve for me. And I had to really step back and like evaluate things. And like I said, I had to put my blinders on, and I'm like, okay, all opinions aside, all comparisons aside, what is good for me? What I thought would work for me and my family and my life is not. It's not. And I had to do that with like even our businesses, and I still do going forward. There's a lot of times where I'm like, I feel like I'm missing out, and we're like, what if I don't take this opportunity? Okay, and what if I don't? My life is not over, and I still can look forward and say, what next? Like, what do I need to do now? Okay, this isn't working for me. I don't have the support that I need to make it through this journey. I don't have, the friend to call on when I'm going through this, or the husband support, or whatever. And those are not saying for me, but I'm just saying you could be in that position where you're having to evaluate all the things around you. So what may work for one, maybe the exact same situation, so you think, is not going to work for you. And that is okay. That doesn't make your situation worse. It doesn't make it better. It doesn't make it less or less important. It just is not the same. And if you're watching this and you're feeling discouraged or have felt this way, where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't catch a break and this person has it all figured out, or at least so it seems, it's okay to step back and be like, you know what? Or maybe they're sitting back literally thinking the same thing. What's so crazy is I have gained so many friends that I didn't have even a couple years ago. And I remember looking at some of their lives, not in a negative sense at all, like admiring them or really looking up to them. And then I'm getting to know them and they're like, whoa, like, oh, I'm really struggling. Like today, today's not good. My kid has literally done 8. I'm like, oh, yours too. It was like so comforting to know that I was not the only one enduring these trials. And just because somebody doesn't put it out there, it goes back to that highlight reel. 99% of people are not going to post on Facebook like, my kid's being a butt today. I'm about to pull my hair out. Can somebody rescue me? They're not, And I'm sure if you're a parent and you're watching this, you felt that way. Not gonna lie, today's been one of those days for me, not just with my kid, just feeling overwhelmed with everything I have on my plate. And it is so easy to like look around me and be like, okay, why am I suffering? Why am I having to go through this or try to figure out this stuff? I need more support. I need more of this. But I'm sure there's somebody out there feeling the exact same way. And I can look at 500 different people's highlight reels and look at their social medias, and I'm never going to get that. I'm never going to get that side of the story. We're never going to hear the ins and outs. We're never going to hear, the details of the process. So, like I said, one size does not fit all. And if you're feeling discouraged, please watch this. And I hope it encourages you that whatever you're going through, 1, it's not forever. 2, what is going on in your life that you're like looking around at other people like, why is it just me? Chances are it's not just you. Chances are it's probably happened to many people, or other people are going around it and they're just not sharing it, or they're just not as open or as vulnerable that maybe you are or you're feeling right now, and that is also okay. So I hope this is encouragement. I know like personally for me, like I have made it a prayer in my life, and like I said, I'll be honest, today's not been a good day for me. But I've tried to make it a point to wake up in the morning and like before I do anything, thank God for one thing before I start giving him my running list of things that like I would like to ask for, but I try to wake up and just try to have that, that attitude like, God, okay, I may not feel like right now in my life I have a lot of support. I'm really struggling with help with my kid. I'm really wanting to reach these goals of mine. I finally feel like they're in my, the palm of my hands, and I'm just like, now I'm lacking this resource or whatever with childcare or help or whatever. And, I still am just trying to make it a point like, God, thank you. We're all healthy. I woke up today, and just try to pull on those positives. And again, I know that's so hard when you're down in the valley or in the trenches and you're struggling, but I really do think it changes your mindset when you can just look around, just be thankful even for such small things, especially in the insane world that we live in today. We see so much heartbreak and like trials and tribulations, and just to step back and be like, God, you are so good because of fill in the blank. And it may be something as simple as like, I didn't have to cook dinner today, or my kid didn't destroy my house, or me and my significant other didn't get in a fight over planning away, or, it could just be something so simple. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, I'm going to try to hop back on here more often. If you don't already, follow me on my Instagram and my Facebook, my TikTok. I have tons of other fun, more lighthearted videos, shorter videos on there. And I just share kind of my life on there. So if you don't already, feel free to follow those and stay tuned for the next video.